Before elves, before dwarves, before men, the old ones arrived upon this world. Then came chaos, and the great plan of the old ones was unmade. We are the last of their servants, and only by our hand shall the great plan be restored, with the total defeat of the usurping younger races.
Have we had a quote for the last few episodes, or has that kind of fallen by the wayside while we've dealt with tech issues?
We have had quotes despite the tech issues. We've had attempts at quotes, and we've had finished ones.
Fantastic. Well, we had a quote there. I heard chaos and I heard Heil, so I'm feeling good about things. How are you doing today on this fine Tuesday afternoon / evening?
I am very well, thank you, Ed. I am sporting the new Saffron Walden Warhammer Club shirt, so I have abandoned, just for this week only, just abandoned my 6++ roots and gone with the Saffron Teams kit. Look at that, sponsored by a local game store, sponsored by the Saffron Slam. We are going to be the coolest people going to Old World and 40k events in the world.
So before we get into talking to chat, I want to chastise you and give a shout out to your sponsor and thank them. Did you know? So, set up to this. You ran an event, not this weekend just gone, but the weekend before, which was the Fantasy Slam number 3. And this was the first GT event. It went well. I won. Great stuff all round. There was no bias in the pairings. I know this because the pairings that I wanted, and it was actively chatting to Lewis about wanting, not that I wanted him to like fix it for me, but I was like, okay, I think if this happens, I've still got a chance at winning. I got the exact opposite of what I'd been saying I wanted. Turns out it went okay in the end. But yeah. Anyway, when I won, I got a £35 voucher, which, incredible. Warhammer events don't do enough prizes. Also, I think it is the smallest value prize out of the 4 prizes you put up. Is that correct?
Yes, I think. Depends how much you value commission painting, really.
More than £35. I've looked into how much it costs.
If you value commission painters properly, yes, it's the smallest value prize.
Because there was a prize for your sponsor, if you want to talk about, just very quickly, who have supplied you with boxes, the army builder.
Yes, the big battle, what are they called? Battle Force boxes, whatever they're called, battalion boxes. We did the Orcs and Goblins one this time around. That is with the army building app Second in Command. Lovely dev. I've actually been working with them in the past couple of weeks. So
that's why I wanted to bring them up, because I looked at the output that they gave and I went, I hate this. This is awful. I had no intention of using it. You sent me a message yesterday going, I've been working with the guy. How's this output look? It's so clean. Is that live already, or is that like a beta?
It should be live already. I've got a test version of the app, but I'm pretty sure it's live on the main app now as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically what we did is everyone that built their army lists for the Saffron Slam using the app got entered into a random prize draw. And it wasn't rigged, but one of the Saffron Warden locals did win the prize. I promise I didn't rig it.
Yeah.
But obviously by us doing that, I was able to get a whole event's worth of feedback about the app, people using it, people not using it. So we've come up with 3 changes that we've put into the app. So the first one is the output. People found the output slightly confusing, so that's been massively simplified now, and I think it looks a lot better.
It looks
it's basically, the output is really clean. It's basically the same as Old World Builder, I guess, now, quite similar to the way that output's done.
I think it might be cleaner, and I've got to be honest, I'm an Old World Builder stan. That is my army builder of choice, but this is crisp.
It's come out all right.
Yeah.
But there's two other things as well which we're not really properly explored yet. We're still testing the cloud save feature. So I don't know about anybody else, but I make my lists on my phone and then move across to my iPad when I'm playing the games. So I can have a bigger screen so I can see the unit profiles and things like that. What this allows me to do now is build a list on my phone and have it automatically save onto my Second in Command account so that I can open it on my computer or on the iPad or whatever. And then the third thing that we're adding in is he's adding in, is the ability to link your list to your opponent. So when you have a list you want to share with your opponent, either in a tournament or just in a friendly game, instead of sending them the list, you send them the code. And if they open the code in their second in command app, it just automatically adds the list into their app. So instead of having to kind of look at the output, you can literally just open it in your app, and that gives you all of their stats, all of their abilities, all of the upgrades, all the enhancements, everything they've put on all their army, just transfers it straight into your app. Which also what it means as well is when you're doing the end of game scoring, is you can score both your own army and your opponent's army on your app without having to manually rewrite it. And what what I have asked him to do, he hasn't done yet, is basically have that as a standard part of the output. So when you look at someone's army on BCP or whatever, it's like name of their army, vampire counts, 2,000 points. Under that will be the code, so that you can look at your first round opponent or second round, whatever, before you've even met them, and copy their list straight into second in command, so that you can just immediately open the list yourself, so you can actually review their list in detail in advance of the game. So hopefully that, I mean, for someone like you, Ed, that just knows all of the abilities and all the kit and everything that everybody can take, it probably doesn't make much difference. But if you don't know what a Bretonian does or a Tomb King does, you can literally just copy the code into your app and open it and download their list straight onto your app without any kind of interaction. So look, I've tested that. That seems to be working okay. Seem to be able to, my friend Tom's dwarf list onto my phone without having to write it. So that worked really well. But I think those 3 changes that have come out of the Saffron Slam, hopefully will really take that app to the next level.
Excellent stuff. Good to hear it. So a little bit of preamble there, because like I say, it's not necessarily my personal app of choice, but when people are using taking feedback on and making big improvements, I think it's definitely worth shouting that out. Apologies, apparently the stream went to the wrong place, so I have fixed the link in Discord. I have relinked on the wrong stream, so hopefully you should all be here. However, this is good timing because I wanted to talk about your other sponsor, Game on Toymaster in Saffron Walden.
Oh, sorry, Ed. I have realised what's happened. On YouTube, you're currently streaming a previous video. We're currently under
yes, I've pushed an update, so it should
okay, that's come through. That's why it's not come through on mine. So I saw lots of comments, people saying we can't get on the stream, what's happening?
Yes, no, it should if you were to refresh, you'd see an update, but also you don't need to because you're here already. So that is where we're at. Anyway, so you've got your sponsor, Game on Toymaster. I've been in before. Nice place, lovely staff, and the interactions I've had with them recently have been very positive, which is good because the voucher that you gave me, and apparently this isn't the first time they've had this issue with you, so I said I'd pass the feedback on.
No, what have I done?
It's not an online voucher. It's a physical use voucher only. Were you aware of this?
I didn't know that.
No.
I just assumed because they had an online store, the voucher would function.
Unfortunately not. It is an in-use voucher. So if you do win at one of Lewis's events, do pop round there if you finish before they close at 4 p.m. on Sunday, which I think actually is probably cutting it a little bit fine. Or there were options. They said I could post the voucher in, and then they'd call me, or I could call them for the rest of the balance. What I ended up doing was sending them a picture of the back, which had the single-use code on for their purposes, and then filmed myself cutting up the voucher to prove that I wasn't going to use it multiple times. But they were incredibly helpful, very, very fast. I emailed them to say, hey, you haven't got anything that I really want in, but it says on the website, contact us for ordering stuff in. Any chance I could get a box of Venari Dawn Riders? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. I've put it on the list for next week's order. I was like, oh. Every time I interacted with them, it was quick and easy.
They're a lovely group of guys. I'll see about making, if they can have an online code, that would be easier. But to be honest, I find as well, there's always lots of stress about getting hold of old world stuff. But for whatever reason, they seem to just be able to get hold of it. So
great.
It's the world's worst kept secret now. I've just announced it on a stream. But yeah, Game On and Saffron Walden seem able just to acquire old world minis and boxes and books that seem to sell out everywhere else. So yeah.
Yeah, but they, like I say, I was super impressed. It took a while for me to get the models, but that was just because there were multiple steps of communication, and I was responding to an email once a day. Like I don't have time to just sit down and I could have called them honestly and done it that way, but I'm in my early 30s. If I don't have to make phone calls, if I can just, it's not that I don't like talking on the phone, but it's just easier to be like, oh, let me just send an email and then I can deal with that later on.
Yeah.
So that is all good. So a huge shout out to Game on Toymaster. Great group of people. Really enjoyed talking to them. And obviously, the Venari Dawn Riders. I guess it's probably a good time to sage into talking about the hobby we've been doing. But before that, we'll talk to the chat because we've got some of the usual faces here.
Good. They found us.
Yeah, they have indeed. Apologies for the sharing issues. We've got Tanako here. Good, but raining in the land of Lincoln. That's unfortunate. Sorry to hear that. I think it's been all right here in Nottingham. It's been reasonably warm. Danny Paints is here. Good to have you, long-time lurker, seldom poster. Well, glad you've posted. Now I'll recognise the name. Existence is here. Good evening. Same as Anthony. It'll be nice and early for that Anthony as well. Anubis pointed out that the YouTube was cursed. Thank you. You were the person that made me notice. So appreciate your multiple messages. Rat Bastard started the wrong stream, you sods. Yeah, that's fair. I did do that. G Wild is here.
Missed my whole spiel about second in command.
It's all right. The video's live. They couldn't go back and watch it. Good to have you, Gwillem. Finally, the right stream. I bamboozled the whole community. Yes, what I did was deliberately I sent people to the wrong place, so less people were watching because that somehow benefits me. Yes, indeed. Cheers from Bavaria. Hell yeah. Good to have you, Fennec. Tizzy says hi. Hello. Good evening. Well, we are here after a full start. There's been a few of those. I'm really struggling with bloody Streamlabs. I may have to just suck it up and go back to using the program I was using before, despite it being equally crap, but in different ways. Hermetic Hipsters from
it feels like it's crap to use, but from an outward perspective, everybody watching it seems to work, whereas this seems to be the other way around.
Yeah, this is great to use, and from my perspective, where I'm sat, everything's working, and then people are like, "Oh, it's not working." So good stuff there. But shall we talk about some hobby? Because you have got some nice pictures, and I haven't been anywhere near as prepared. But as we can see here, you sent me a load of pictures over to talk about.
Indeed. So I mentioned we were going to do this. Tom, who went to Saffron Slam a couple of weeks ago, he unfortunately came last. Bless him.
Someone has to.
With his dwarves. Someone always has to. Yeah. And actually, we had a really great... I love it when this happens. Last Saffron Slam, nobody lost all of their games. So everybody won all their games. Tom did the classic thing of, which is screwed yourself in the pairings, and he won his first game. And what that usually means is the way that pairings work, you end up pairing yourself up for the rest of the weekend. So he's like, yes, I've beaten Bretonians in my first game. I'm going to win the tour. Oh, God.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? As you get punched into the ground repeatedly.
Tried his best. But so what we did just before the tournament is we played at the club night. We played a 3,000 point game, which is so cool to have 3,000 points of Empires basically fully painted, versus Tom's Dwarfs in a siege battle. We didn't use the siege rules. I know there are some 8th edition or 6th edition Warhammer siege rules, which I'm sure exist somewhere on the internet if you're willing to pay someone on eBay £5,000 to buy the book.
Or just find a PDF.
Or get a PDF somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, so we just played normal Warhammer, but he was in a castle and I was running up to him. This is what it looked like in deployment. So yeah, I kind of just lined up everything in a line. Tom got first turn, which I was slightly concerned about because he has a lot of cannons, a lot of grudge throwers, and a lot of shooting. And he poured all of it into the Mortis engine turn 1. Now, it was a bold strategy because the Mortis engine, if anyone's played Vampire Counts, is one of the more resilient models to shooting because it has its 4-up save, it has its 4-up board, and it has its 5-up region. So quite difficult layer of saves to get through. And yeah, got it down to 1 wound in the first turn, which is bad when you're playing Vampire Counts because it very quickly goes back up to full wounds. It doesn't take long. And obviously, if he'd have been successful and killed it, I'd have started crumbling from turn 1, which would have been a mess. But given that he wasn't, if you go on to the next photo, you'll see me hopefully by the end of my first turn running across the board, getting all my spells off. And yes, we worked out that without damage he'd done, he would have successfully managed to kill 1.5 dragons for what he did.
Upsetting.
So this was after my turn 1. He has another chance to shoot
Mm.
before I get across to him. But I've managed to position bits and bobs in such a way that he's a nice cheeky column of crystal there that's blocking off a unit from shooting and things like that. So he couldn't fully target the Mortis engine. So he then makes the other grave error of against Vampire Counts of splitting fire and taking wounds off individual models or taking off a couple of skeletons here and there, which basically meant he did do some damage to the Blood Knights, but didn't quite kill them. But which basically means if you go into the last photo, the vampires break through the walls, and we overrun those smelly dwarves. And unfortunately, that castle is now an undead castle. Oh yeah, this is pre-impact, and then that's post-impact. And yes, unfortunately, Blood Knights over the walls into the Dwarf Warriors. There's a very annoying Dwarf King thing in there that does not die at all. Whatever you hit him with, just refuses to die. So he's still left alive at the end. But unfortunately, I have slaughtered my way through 2,500 points of dwarves. I lost a unit of skeletons and a dog unit, I think. So yes. It was great fun. Very much enjoyed playing Siege Battle. That was a good laugh, like trying to get through the walls and things like that. It's really cool. And actually, what we found is 3,000 points. It took us 3 and a bit hours. So it didn't take that much longer than 2,000 points. Probably 15, 20 minutes longer than 2,000 point game. And we were drinking. Well, so that obviously slows us down.
Yeah, do you want to tell people where you have your Warhammer club?
Yeah, so the Saffron Club, we have it in the pub because it's a very oldie worldy town.
Yep.
And the King's Arms, bless them. It's a building that's 300-400 years old. So like dark rooms, red carpet, really dark wood furniture, and open fires everywhere. That's the sort of vibe. Smells slightly of beer as you walk in, but it's the cheapest place to drink in Saffron Walden. They have a function room, as lots of pubs do, but it's a function room that's big enough to get about 6 tables worth of terrain in. Which for a club night it's not a massive town, but we do draw in people from villages around and stuff. But we basically fill it every single week now. But yeah, we get to play in the pub, so we get the venue for free. I've used some Saffron Slam terrain to tide us over, but we're building up enough money in the club kitty to buy some terrain. We've got a few sets of 40k terrain because that's always the most popular, and we'll be moving on to buying some old world terrain soon, and the mats and things that go with it. But yeah, it's been great actually. And then in a pub as well, like you got access to alcohol, you've got everything you could want. Like people can buy as much or as little drink as they want, and everyone can have a bit of a laugh.
I love that. Got everything you could want, as long as what you want is alcohol and
crisps.
Yeah, it's a nice pub. We did end up there on the Saturday for the last Saffron Fantasy Slam. If you do come to these events, then you'll have the opportunity to hang out on the evening with Lewis and I, as long as I make it.
Yeah, we had a great meal with Mike and Joe, didn't we? Joe, who one of them, Mike won best painted, Joe won most sporting opponent. So I think that was the way around. Joe with his Slanesh Demons was most sporting, and Mike with his Empire was best painted. So correct. Good to meet. I was surrounded by prize winners on Saturday night. Which was good. Very much enjoyed it. I think actually it was a really good weekend. You've done a bit of a rundown of your games, Ed. Congratulations for your win, I have to say. Literally 74 points between you and Tom.
Going to the third tiebreaker.
Yeah. Going down to points destroyed to decide who won the event. That was impressive.
Fantastic. We've got some more faces here. Jalib and Miskdisk are here. Good to have you. Ben Walker, something good to watch while painting white lions. An excellent choice, a connoisseur's choice.
Fine gentleman.
Says shout out to the Gutlords chat. Absolutely. Hope you're all doing well. Ginger Steve, evening. How are you doing, buddy? Hope the house move is going well. Hope it's going better than the last time I got an update on it. We'll see. Creekhammer's here. As well, good evening to you, and Callum's been rude. A table of champions and Ed. Well, you got to do that in front of all my mates. Just very quickly while we're here. Yeah, let me just quickly ping through some of the collages that you had posted. I think I might have put them in the video as well, honestly. So I'm not going to linger on them for too long. But as you can see here, plenty of really, really nicely painted models. It was a real... there was a lot of really lovely stuff on there.
Hobby standard at Old World events. It's so high. I know we've said it before, but it genuinely blows me away every single time. The amount of effort people put in to get their armies ready. And I think even this is an event where it didn't have a painting requirement. You didn't have to bring fully painted stuff to be able to use it. And some people, power gamers like yourself, there to go and win it with half painted stuff.
So,
but
I took a worse list than I normally bring. I genuinely think my Dark Elf list is better than that. I'm just bored of it. But I use that as an opportunity to play something I don't normally get to play.
Definitely. But yeah, the hobby standard's amazing. That I loved that. My vote was for that High Elf army where you can see the
mine was as well.
In the, you know, it was so clean. Like to get your white on your minis to look that smooth. By hand as well.
Did he paint it by hand? I assumed airbrush,
did,
but yeah, fair play to him. Yeah, perfect stuff. Tom's here as well. Good evening. Hope you're doing well. I can do a little bit of chat about my hobby as well. Let me just load this up. Now, I haven't done anything as fancy as taking some pictures, but let's just see if this works. So here's a bit of A4. There we go. There's a griffin. You know, I'll get some better pictures. I'm going to do a video about WTC, probably either Thursday or Sunday. But you can vaguely see
that is definitely a griffin.
The Welsh flag colours. Very not even subtle Welsh flag. I've literally done a white and green banner with red on it. And why is that? And it's because elves are Welsh, and that is inarguable. If you know
that is canon, is it?
Well, so I'm not going to go too long about this, and I don't expect to have to argue my point because I'm objectively correct. But obviously Warhammer Fantasy very heavily takes from Tolkien. That's just, you know, we can all recognise that. And Tolkien's elves, the language they speak, is heavily based on Welsh. So,
right,
it is objective fact that elves are Welsh, and I'll hear no arguments. Gwilym says, yes, it's true, Ed is correct. Thank you very much. There we go.
Well, from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is as well. Mouth. Evening. They used to be Welsh elves, but yeah, no, I've been painting them. So this is not a case of, you know, make the England team decide to paint my elves Welsh. This is one of the first armies I was going to do in Old World was High Elves, and I had the paint scheme in mind, and then I just put them off basically. I think I watched the same YouTube video about them Welsh elves. I haven't watched a YouTube video about it, but if you've got a link, I would like to watch it because it it appeals to, you know, it's just going to reinforce my opinion. So obviously, I'd like to see that. Every Dowie's a Scotsman. Yeah, that makes sense as well. I think that more heavily pulls from the Lord of the Rings films than the Lord of the Rings books, but
right.
I mean, objectively still correct. Like you're speaking truth.
I know I'm about 10 years late to the party, but I've just recently discovered dwarf rock or dwarf metal.
Okay.
Some amazing concerts where the whole band is just dressed up as dwarves. And I can't remember the name of the band now, but yeah, it's like dwarf metal. It's like a version of heavy rock, but about dwarves.
So there's in a similar vein, there's a band called, I think they're called Gnome, where they all just dress up as garden gnomes.
Right.
And they do sort of like, I guess it's kind of like proggy metal. And they do concept albums as if they're gnomes. My favourite being Wenceslas. Check out Gnome Wenceslas. Just a great song. Should we go back to talk about Warhammer?
Or should probably talk about some Warhammer now.
Yeah. There's
far off Beast.
Yeah, just a little bit. So we had a fun one this evening. We thought, there's a lot of stupid rules in the old world. A lot of stupid rules. Why don't we talk about some of them? Why don't we talk about some of the fun ones? Because something came up in one of the group chats I'm in over the weekend, or it might have even been yesterday, that blew my mind. And I, like, as soon as you think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, obviously this makes sense. But I genuinely was like, this is, weird. And I'm sure people have used this rule against me. I am, of course, referring to the fact that if you charge and you use your lance and your opponent falls back in good order, you can't use a lance in the second round of combat because it's the same combat. So if you make someone fall back in good order and then chase them with a lance, you don't get to lance them again. And yet that is the experience that I've had.
I've always assumed.
Yeah.
You count as charging.
Yeah, but also it's a continued combat. It specifically says it's the same combat for things, you can't, if you're in a challenge, you continue in a challenge. It is the second round of combat. It's not a new combat. So despite charging, you have to use the hand weapon, because the way that the rule is written is that in the second round of combat, use the hand weapon.
Is that how GW is supposed to be nerfing the Bretonians? They just didn't tell us.
Maybe. Or says disagree as you argued on Discord. I may have missed that. I'd have to double check. But yeah, it says in subsequent turns it must use the hand weapon. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. This is part of the reason I want to bring it up, because there are a lot of like niche weird interactions. Feel free to in the comments if you're watching live, or if you're not watching, give us a shout out down below. What do you think is the correct interpretation? But
I mean, it literally says if the enemy unit fell back in good order, that unit becomes engaged in combat once more, becoming locked in place until the next player's turn, and the key bit, when the combat will continue. So it doesn't say it starts a new combat. It literally says the combat will continue, and then it just says during the next turn the pursuing units count as having charged. And then the lance rules. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Ed. I don't like it, but I'm agreeing with you.
So we've got a lot of people disagreeing in chat, and they basically, to sum up what 8 people have just said, they're saying that it's any turn you count as charging. Here's the thing. If you read the next line, in subsequent turns, the model must use its hand weapon instead. So you charged in one turn, and then the next turn you have to use the hand weapon. Now, I could be wrong with that, but that was sort of the thing that opened my mind up to going, we should talk about some of these weird niche rules. They're interesting ones.
Yeah, strange.
Apparently, the Lance FAQ just straight up says if you charge or counters charging, you can use the Lance. Okay, I'll have to double check that one. Maybe I've just missed a rule there.
Missed the FAQ.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the.
What I'd like one day is for there. So I'm using the old world app, online app thing for the rules, like the searchable rules. And so this isn't having to go like them at all, because they're just doing a free section of rules.
Yeah.
What would be quite nice is in some of these digital versions of the rules, when an FAQ comes along, especially as a TO, the FAQ just gets added into the original rules. Change the text color, put it in italics, whatever it needs to be, so that when I'm looking at the Lance rule and there's an FAQ that applies to the Lance rule, it's all in there, and you don't have to go back out and go, oh, maybe there's an FAQ about Lances.
This is the tau.whfb.app website.
That's the one.
Yeah, great website. I use it a lot. It's a banger. Would recommend. But yeah, so that was what got me thinking. So maybe that's not one. And given that Ors is the one who was first to the gun, I think, to tell me that I'm wrong. And I need to double check on that one. I'm going to bring up one that he brought up, because I was asking people for fun niche rules interactions. Did you know that the dwarf anvil could join a unit of hammerers if they are also joined by Ungrim to make them unbreakable? Because there's no rule saying that war machines can't join units. Very similar to light chariots. Yeah, that gets real fucky, because the anvil doesn't have a base size, right? It's just round, I think.
It is actually round, yeah.
Yeah. Callum's pointed a step-by-step explanation in the VIP lobby. Fantastic. Well, I will read that later on to make sure that I am either correct or wrong. And if you want to read that, you can become a channel member of tier of Grail Knight or Longbeard, and make sure to ping it in the Needs Roll channel in Discord, and I will give you your access to the VIP channel. I don't do,
you want to tell us that we're wrong to our faces? If so,
no, it's we'll oh yeah, if you want to tell us that, yeah, we're wrong to our faces, yes. Yeah, perfect. So I think that's just a really fun one that I don't know that there's any reason that you necessarily would want to put it in.
No, well, what bonus are you getting? Because it's still, you can't move it. So I assume that means the hammer.
Yeah, so the unit can't move, yeah. But it technically can join a unit. Maybe as protection against shooting. But here's the thing. You can't have a unit leave a character. You can only have a character leave a unit, right? So once you're in, and you have to deploy in, you can't join it because the model can't move. I guess you're just stuck forever.
Yeah.
Great.
So maybe you could join it instead of hammerers. Oh no, wait. What can Ungrim join? Can he join any shooting units?
Oh,
Unless you just you made Ungrim leave the unit without.
yeah, I can't remember. It might be. It's been a little while since I've looked specifically at the rules, but it might just be that he makes hammerers unbreakable as opposed to anything else. Okay. I'd have to double check the interaction, but hammerers are the ones specifically put in. You guys have been people are going wild in chat.
I thought it's a silly idea for an episode, Ed. Why are we here?
yeah, it's great. So Steve, did you add pictures for Ed? Yeah, that's the other thing you get to do if you're a channel member. You can engage in playful ribbing in the VIP section. That's basically all that section is, as you can probably attest. It's people just giving me shit. But it's fun. Ben says this is a good one, and this is one that I do like to use, and people do miss. You can restrain and reform after overrunning. It's in the FAQ. It is indeed. So you overrun, you catch a unit, or you kill a unit and you overrun. You then get to restrain and reform, which is
very useful,
fantastic stuff. And it's just so strong. Like, if you've got something like a dragon, you want to be using, or like you've got a Death Star, anything that's an expensive unit, you want to be getting as many turns as possible out of it. The place that I'm not sure, and this is one that I need to look into more, one that I've had discussion on in the past, is can a frenzied unit overrun and then restrain and reform? People were saying yes. My reading on it is no, but that's one that I think I would need to sit down with a fine-tooth comb to make a convincing argument for. Sava says magic resist 3. Yeah, I guess if you really need magic resist on that unit, that's fair. I could just see some sort of like teams list where all the list is 2 very cheap units and then 1 massive unit of hammerers and the anvil and Ungrim, and it all just sits in the brick and you're like, cool, my goal is that you can't kill me. And I give up no points, and we get a 10-10 draw. Which I'm not sure is a good list, but that is something that I could see someone trying to make it work. The anvil, Winslow points out again, the anvil can't leave the unit because it can't move away.
It gets stuck, and they just stand still. There's not many situations where you'd want to be completely stationary.
Also, Anubis clarify you can only join hammers and slayers. This is Ungrim. So yes, that makes sense. And Broston as well. Sorry, I missed you there. Of course, you can't put the anvil into the slayers because the slayers have loner and the anvil doesn't, and that stops that little bit of shenanigans. What else have we got here?
I don't think your frenzy units can restrain after overrunning. If the majority of models in the unit are frenzied, it can't choose to flee as charge action, nor can it ever choose to make a restraint test.
So the argument is that it's not making a restraint test. It's just you automatically restrain because you can't overrun twice, and then at that point you take the reform test. It's more complex than I think I would want. I agree with you, but I think there's a compelling argument to be sat down and ruled out. I'd want that in an FAQ pack for an event that I was going to. Not that I ever read them. And I won't start now. You can't make me. I play purely on vibes, and I will continue to do so.
The FAQ says it may attempt to reform as if it had run down its throne.
Yeah, exactly. I fully agree with you. I don't think it can, but there is an argument that it can because it automatically passes. Sarunda says, can't wait for the Beastmen journal. Hell yeah, me too. Everyone is telling me that it should be coming sooner rather than later.
I was going to say, give us a date, Ed. Come on, give us a date.
I genuinely have no idea. It's upsetting because sometimes I get to sit here and be smug and be like, oh, well, maybe we'll see something soon. I have no fucking clue. I have no idea on the release date for that, or for Wood Elves. And I have no idea what's coming in Wood Elves, and it's pissing me off, because the rumours are saying there's no tree spirits, and not knowing if there's a forest spirits army is breaking me mentally, because I want it. I want it so badly. But we will have to see. Yeah, it's coming. We're going to find out more about Beastmen at Adepticon, and there was a fun interaction on Discord earlier in the week where someone said, I can't believe we didn't get any Adepticon information about Beastmen. I was like, oh yeah, that is weird, because where was that coming from? Who said that it was going to happen? And so they're like, oh, I think Rob and Val said it, or they heard it on a podcast. I was like, oh, okay, shame that wasn't true. Turns out Adepticon's not until the end of the month, so that's why we didn't get Adepticon spoilers.
That's why nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, good times. As someone who is currently forgetting who they are, I can't blame them for getting the weekend wrong on that one. Yes, Adepta Moo, says Tom. That's very good. Very good. I don't have my private meeting with James until tomorrow. I assume you mean James Workshop. If anyone was going to know anything about Old World rules, I feel like James Workshop, the character that they play, is probably not the person. He definitely
only cares about money.
So which means he's a 40k player. Definitely not an Old World player.
He likes the Boomdacker Snazwagon too much to be an Old World player.
To be fair, I do love the Orc Buggies. That was the first time I got back into.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that could maybe pull me back to playing 40k. A bit, not replacing Old World. But if they make the Orc Buggies list great again, I could bust out the wagons for one last ride. Get myself a chrome spray paint. Ride into the sunset, shiny and chrome. Hey Scott, I think I saw you on the other stream, but I may have had a slight issue with posting the right one before. To jump back to frenzied units and reforming, this is a test after an overrun, isn't a restraint test, it's just a test to reform. There we go, that's the argument. That is the other side of the argument, but I'm not going to go any further into it on stream, just because it's, I think, not as clear as I would like it to be. Ed is evil with Orc Buggies. Oh yeah, that's how I met Ginger Steve. We had a great time.
You ran him over.
He thought I was a doctor because I was giving him a prostate exam. 40k keeps the UK economy going. Don't knock it. This episode's gone unhinged, which I think is fine. But yeah, we've very quickly gone off topic, haven't we? If you're enjoying the slightly more off-topic videos or streaming, this is a lot more what the Friday streams I do, like a lot more chat interaction as opposed to just talking about something. This one is very much leaning in that direction. But if you want more of that, do check out the streams 8 p.m. GMT on Fridays. Don't know what I'm doing this week. Might do a stream game. That might be fun.
Not fix my list.
No, I do this fortnightly because I think it would get a bit dull if it was just every week. I was like, here's 12 more lists that I fixed. Yeah. I think keeping them fortnightly is a good level of time for the content.
When's our battle report coming out, Ed? Come on.
When I edit it. Which I haven't done yet.
Turns out battle reports, lot of work, ladies and gents.
Yeah. Dwarf cart spam meta, Matthew says. Richie's going to make it happen eventually. I'll hit him up, see if he can do that. Ginger Steve, I gave you a reach around with a finger. I'm a not a selfish lover at all. Niscard, what's 40k? It's okay. If you haven't heard of it, you probably
don't bother.
You probably have to. Yeah. Two nerds yapping, my favourite. Yep, hell yeah. Mental breakdown episode, let's go. I should change the stream title to that. That would be much better. Howdy, Ultimate Funk. Hope you're doing so well.
You've dragged enough people in with your clickbait title now, Ed. Everyone's like, you can use lances on for my go. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I don't think that's why people have joined at all. I think it's just people here to chill and have some vibes.
Hassa says because they like us, Ed. Let's be honest.
Well, not you. I just want to point out, so we've has a flavor, frequent commenter on YouTube and also active on Discord. Appreciate you. Always enjoy seeing your comments. Also, always read your name wrong in my head. I know it's has a flavor, but I read it as has a flavor. Just wanted to share that. That's a little bit of content specifically for you and you alone. I'm sorry to everyone else watching.
What flavour are they?
You want sorry?
They have a flavour, but what flavour is it?
It better be flavour, I assume. I wouldn't ask. I would consider that rude.
These flavour folk. They don't like people asking what their flavour is.
Zittel says clickbait title got me to join. Damn it. I try not to do clickbait. This is as good a time to talk about it as any. Obviously, the way that YouTube works is you've got to grab people's attention with the thumbnail and the title. I don't mind clickbait, but I feel like the content has to back up what you're doing. Like, if the answer to your... If you're saying is like, oh, can you do something? And the answer is no, I feel like the and this doesn't work in this sense because I think Lancers might not be able to work. But like, if it's sort of like, if the answer is, oh, the video is not useful, I don't like that sort of title combination. I think that's a bit crap. So if there's ever, that's the trick. If there's ever a clickbait title, you'll know that the answer is like, oh yes, the thing actually works the way that I'm implying that it does. That's what I'm getting towards. Oh no, Fenix spilled Agrax Earthshade again. That goes everywhere. That does go everywhere.
Smells funny as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Tell you what, it doesn't smell. You remember the old oil washes?
I
the old
do.
Black oil wash.
I do.
That stank.
Yeah, never drank those. I'm a dirty mouth brush cleaner, so never did it for those because that even was too far for me. Yeah, no worries at all. Jalib says the pandering is unmatched. Yes, absolutely. If you're watching this video, one by one, I will get to you specifically, and I will do something specifically for each one of you individually. And that's a promise that I have no intention of keeping. So, join me in 2028 when I run for Parliament. Or when I run for mayor in Hartlepool. So, tell you what, let's do, because we've got off piece, let's just continue. So, I was born in Hartlepool, which is not something that I necessarily associate with. I moved away when I was like 2.5 or 3. I didn't grow up there, but there's a famous story about a monkey being murdered because it was the residents of Hartlepool thought it was a World War I, World War II spy. Turns out, if you look at it through history, there's a lot of these coastal cities have this story through various different wars. So, is it true? Probably not. But it's a good story, and it's one that's pervaded until today. Hartlepool. Hartlepool had a football mascot, I should say. Hangus the monkey. Yes, that is Angus, the name Angus, with a H apostrophe in front of it, to be pronounced Hang Us the monkey. That's pretty interesting. However...
Oh, I love the North.
However, Hangus the monkey, the football mascot, back in, I want to say it was the early 2000s, ran for mayor as Hangus the monkey, I believe. And part of the campaign was free bananas for all children. And of course, when Hangus did win, became just a very serious politician who remained as mayor until the position was eliminated, something like 12 years later. So that's where I'm from. They lie about bananas.
There's not many countries in the world where you can elect a monkey.
Yeah. That rat bastard, not something Hartlepool is proud of. Either you're talking about me or you're talking about the monkey. And both are fair. This says Citadel paint pots are designed to fall over. And that's something we're not talking enough about.
This conspiracy theory.
Hard pivot. We're going to hard pivot to talking about how Games Workshop is evil specifically because they're designing the paint pots to fall over.
Money-grabbing bastards.
Yeah, so here's the thing. And I don't do this. So this is very hypocritical of me to say. You shouldn't be painting from the pot. Even with washes, you should be putting on a palette. I don't do that, and most people, I think, don't do that. We do paint directly from the pot, and that's why I do.
Oh, you've got to water it down.
Yeah, I do. For the audio listeners, that was me with a paintbrush in hand, putting it in my mouth. This
there
one
aren't
is
going to
clean.
be audio listeners, Ed, because you don't put it on the bloody podcast apps.
I'm only one episode behind, so how dare you, sir? How dare you? What is the stream? It's like a fever dream. I think that's fair. That's kind of how I feel. I'm very much hitting the point of cabin fever. Obviously, I've talked about the fact that I'm currently not in full-time employment. I am building models as commission work, which is great, an opportunity I'm very pleased to have, all of that great stuff. But it means that I'm kind of just locked in my room a lot. And all work and no play makes Ed a nut job. So that's kind of where I'm at. Going off the deep end a little bit. You
need to go outside.
Yeah.
Breathe some fresh air.
I'm being suppressed. My right to speak about cleaning my paintbrush with my mouth is being suppressed by the chat. How dare you? How dare you? I'll do this. Definitely not great practice. Also, have I got it here? Oh no, I sprayed it. I've got a dragon here.
What's the ventilation like in your room, Ed?
It's great.
How much glue are you using?
Mate, I've got 2 massive windows that stay open. Rain, sun or shine, you know, in the winter, in the summer. I'm a big fan of a cold room. So one of the few things that I don't have to deal with is poisoning from glue. Also, the gluing bit doesn't take very long. The clipping out doesn't take very long. The cleaning of mold lines carefully and not damaging someone else's models, that's the bit that takes fucking ages. Yeah. But I'm onto some really nice new Chaos models at the moment, and oh, what a treat. I was doing metal chariots before, the wolf chariots, and I was really struggling with it. I was waking up, doing like an hour, and then just be like, I don't want to do this, and then finding ways to procrastinate.
Yeah, we don't know how good we've got it, actually. Not having to look at metal models ever again.
Steve, who I'm building for, Steve says, I'll check on Amazon if I can send you a small piece of grass to touch. This is so that sounds like a joke. That might actually be genuine because Steve does have an Amazon link for me. He sent me, he's obviously sent me modeling glue and stuff. Also, when you sent me the Tamiya cement, Steve, after saying that I hadn't used it at all, I'm a convert. I can't go back. This stuff's incredible. Like, I've still got 2.5 bottles to see me through. Not looking for a top up. It's just great stuff. Thank you so much for sending it to me. Really appreciate it.
What's the distribution mechanism for that Tamiya bottle? I look like a glass bottle.
It's a glass bottle with a little brush. There you go.
Whoa, look at that.
So there's 2 different sizes, or I have 2 different sizes. I don't know if there's more. There's a Tamiya cement in white, and there's a Tamiya extra thin in green. And is the actual glue different? I don't know. I think it probably is a little bit more thin, but more importantly, the green one has a smaller brush. So if you need to apply a smaller amount,
tighter areas.
Yeah.
And is that plastic glue or super glue?
Plastic glue, yeah. For super glue, I just use Gorilla Glue. Glue. I am Gru. Gorilla Glue. I also tell you what, while we're plugging things that don't give us any money, or don't give me any money, because I've just gone through all of your sponsors. Super Glue Activator Spray. This thing is incredible. What it does is it instant bonds, and it means that instead of sitting there holding 2 bits of metal together, you only have to hold it together for 3 or 4 seconds. And it's still not perfect for metal models, but it's way better than anything else.
Tip for using the spray: don't use it on models you've painted, because it changes the colour. I found that out with the LGT. A very nice gentleman lent me some super glue spray.
Yeah.
I was very grateful because it was able to stick my BSB back together, but it also, when you spray it on the model, it puts the white powder coat over everything. So, don't do it until before you've painted all your models. Otherwise, you're going to regret it. And have to
do it before you've painted the models. Is what
do it. Yeah, do it before you've. Don't do it after you've painted your models. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Chat's trying to set me up with a Mordian Glory Battle Report collaboration. I think there's a slight mismatch in scale of channels here. Obviously, Mordian Glory, a great up-and-coming channel, much smaller than me. I'm
not sure how long your Dark Elves would last against the Imperial Guard.
Well, it depends. It depends what sort of toughness scale, because we'd have to go back to like 9th edition. I don't think on the 10th edition scale it works. You've got to have the same like toughness banding, right? Back in 5th edition or like third edition 40k, I remember reading some White Dwarf article or something along those lines where they're like, oh, you can play fantasy versus 40k. They've got the same stats. And of course it wouldn't work at all. But in theory you could, because the way that the stats were arrayed lined up kind of okay.
I think as well also, if I was going to have to play against the Dark Elves or fight against the real Dark Elves, I'd take a plasma cannon quite happily.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm going to sit in a Baneblade and you can throw as many dragons as you like.
Yeah. On the one hand, you could either be rocking, a plasma cannon that might kill the things that are running at you that are horrifying, or so they don't reach you, it blows up and kills you, which is a much safer death than the Dark Elves catching you.
Yeah.
Callum says, in my head, metal chariots have better impact hits. Yeah, hell yeah. That's 10 out of 10. Would recommend. And also, it's the good old sock dreadnought or dreadnought sock. I assume you've heard of the dreadnought sock.
The box knot in the sock.
Yeah. Like if the game's going poorly, you take one of those old metal dreadnoughts and bludgeon your opponent with it. in a video game, not condoning violence against anyone at all, even if they're beating you at Warhammer and you deserve to hit them.
I wondered why your opponents were hobbling around, Ed, after you beat each of them.
This is slander. I don't take a dreadnought with me. I don't even have any of the metal dreadnoughts. When I stopped playing back 14 years ago, I think I sold all my old stuff. Or like it all went in a box, but I didn't have any metal dreadnoughts. Sea Dragon Cloak will save you from las cannons. Hell yeah, not magic. That's true. There's no magic in 40k, right? All their psychic powers are just like shooting attacks. So I
still have the psychic keyword though, so they resolve like shooting attacks.
They're on such a tangent. I bet they'll be back on topic accidentally in about 5 minutes. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. And Morgan has multiple armies. Excellent stuff. Glad to hear it. Should we go back to? Did you have any things that you specifically wanted to bring up in terms of fun rules interactions?
Well, I found a rules interaction that a good friend Tom, who I mentioned earlier, who did come last. I will stop saying that at some point. Could have done with against. He ended up playing. He ended up playing Bretonnians like 3 times over the weekend, that's never good. When you're losing games, the last thing you want is the bloody Green Knight. But actually, I don't think the Bretonnians even made the top 5 at the Saffron Slam. That's the quality of players we had.
Hold on. The way you said that, are you saying that the Bretonnian players are shit?
However you want to take it.
I agreed with you. I was like, wait a second.
It could be positive. I've inflected no meaning on that phrase.
I know you, though, you sarky bitch. So I understand exactly what you're saying. And I think that's really rude as the TO to say.
More Robot Wars content. Brett's would be dangerous if the players were smarter.
That's rude. I think all of the Bretonnian players who were there were lovely. I assume so, because everyone who was there was lovely. So, it is what it is. Oh no, we've accidentally gone off topic again. I tried so hard to get us.
I even got it out on my phone.
Yeah.
The rule I was gonna talk about.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
We have to work through it again because I can't remember how it works. But basically, you can use cannons to target Bretonnian lords on Pegasuses, even if they're in units. Pegasus. You can use cannons to target them.
Yeah.
For reasons. And it did work, but basically you can just use a cannon to snipe a Bretonnian character out of a Pegasus unit, and you don't have to worry about the stupid duke. So, Dwarf, other Bretonnians, Empire. I don't know if anyone else has access to cannons, but whoever else has access to cannons, Chaos Dwarves, use them to kill those Bretonnians and don't worry about the Pegasus.
Oh, okay, sure. Great stuff. Yeah, look, it's only being if you've got 5 models or more is the context there. I was reading chat, so I think that's the conclusion you came to, but I was not listening at all because tonight I am unhinged and I cannot be stopped. Yeah, Ben points out as well, you get an extra 1 initiative for flank or rear charges. Obviously, you get an extra inch worth of initiative. So instead of being capped at 3 inches of initiative on the charge, if you're in the flank or rear, you get up to 4 inches worth of initiative. But if you only charge 3 inches, you don't get the +1 natively. You've got to charge that extra distance.
Right, interesting. Well,
hell yeah. If those Brett players could read, they'd be very upset. This doesn't represent any real people, but it is a meme I find hilarious. I've got another one that I wanted to talk to you about, and I think the implication that is that everyone just does it anyway because it makes sense. But the Mortis engine, some of the crew on it have lancers, don't they?
Yes.
Do you know who can use lancers?
Anyone that for buy goes?
Anyone who rides a monster or is cavalry.
Yep.
Not chariots. If you're on a chariot, you can't use a lance. And yet, it's equipped with them.
So the character riding it can't use a lance?
No. It's okay. It doesn't come with one.
But the model itself has lance-esque rules.
Well, they're just equipped with lances, aren't they? Like, it's just their weapon profile is lance.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna look that up. You carry on talking shit, and I'll look that up.
No, I'm also doing that.
No, Ed, you're better at talking shit.
Yeah, so the spirit hosts, they're equipped with lances.
But they can't have them.
And then the lance says models whose troop type is cavalry or monster only. I guess the way that it's written is that that's kind of a restriction in terms of who can carry them. I think we're okay with people who use mortis engines charging in and using the lance, because if you're charging in with a mortis engine, you're probably using it wrong. So
it's gone wrong. Yes, you do get D6 attacks with that lance as well. So pull that off.
Yeah.
And you feel good.
Again, maybe one to bring up if you're taking vampire counts to a tournament. Maybe you bring that up with the TO and just be like, "Hey, technically, rules as written, this model can't be the way it is. But legacy, huh? Are you okay with me using my weapons that are equipped with?"
Another fine example of copy editing there from Games Workshop.
Steve says we aren't okay with people using mortis engines, lances or not. That's fair. That is fair.
I don't think they're that oppressive, are they?
Oh, they're one of the best things in the book.
Well, yes.
You only ever run one of them.
They're very vulnerable to dying.
Not really.
We get them in combat and they just die to combat.
How are you going to... If your opponent's not... Well, so if you as the vampire player is competent, how am I going to get it into combat?
With your dragon that moves 40 inches in one turn.
Sure. Like, you've got to understand that I'm just dealt differently. But... For everyone else...
It's not the most complicated combination of spells and models there, Ed, to get a vampire, get a dragon that can just jump over your army.
Yeah. Jack's here. For the love of God, tell me you're trolling about the Lancers business. I'm less confident now than I was when I started the stream about the Lancers. I'm going to read off stream and come to an independent conclusion, which is probably what I should have done beforehand. But it's led to just 40 minutes of unhinged behaviour, which is great. It's worked out really nicely. It's just what I needed. Here's one that I really like, and it is, obviously I've talked about it a couple of times. Give ground is stopped by terrain. What is terrain? Terrain is pillar of fire, or rather pillar of fire is terrain. So if you've charged a dragon into the front of a unit that has a static combat res of 7 plus a musician, so they'll challenge with their unit champion and then they're going to auto win combat. You're a high leadership. You're probably not going to fail and flee, and they're only going to beat you by 1. So you roll like a 9 or below, it counts as a give ground. You put a pillar of fire behind them. They can't give ground, comes to their next turn. As long as they're not undead and they can't res their unit champion, they're out of unit champions. Now you can go to town on the unit. Jobs again.
Yep. Happy days.
Should you send me a carbon monoxide detector? No. If God wanted us to not die to carbon monoxide poisoning, he would have put a carbon monoxide detector in our bodies. Just let the chips fall where they fly.
I thought you didn't drink, Ed.
I know, it's funny, I don't. Let's just go down that rabbit hole. So it's not that I don't drink, it's just that I don't really ever drink. I'm not opposed to drinking.
I'm failed to see the difference.
If someone offered me a drink and I fancied it, I'd have it. I just don't normally fancy it. So my partner is, we think, allergic to alcohol. So when she drinks, she gets quite ill. Not in like a hangover sense, but it just makes her very, very unwell. So she doesn't drink. If you've watched any of my content, the fact that, especially at the start when I was growing the channel, I was putting out so much stuff, you could probably identify that I have an addictive personality. So I don't drink on my own, because if I do that, I'll be dead in a few years. So what that's led to is I just don't really drink, because I don't really fancy, I never feel the urge to. Apart from at Christmas this year, I was back home and my dad goes, "Oh, I've got the whiskey out. Do you want one?" I was like, "You know what? Sure, I'll have one." Go to sit down in the living room, and he's poured 3 whiskeys, none of which are for me. And I wasn't bothered enough to be like, "Where's my fucking whiskey?" I was just like, "Oh, sure, whatever, I'll just not have one." I was bothered enough that I was like, if there was going to be one easily, I was like, "Yeah, sure." But the effort for me to get up and get it myself, I was like, I don't care enough. But yeah, so there we go. I don't think I've had a drop of alcohol in about, I want to say about 16 months or so.
Admirable. A good antidote.
No, not at all. It's just not something I think about.
No, I mean, we should all drink less, I think. Probably good for us. But the good antidote to that is to have your Warhammer club in a pub. Makes it very difficult. And have a landlord that knows a drink that you want when you walk through the door, so that by the time I've got to the bar, my pint is already ready.
Yeah, you did point that out, that the landlord knows you, which tells me you're in there too much.
Yeah, we have we played D&D in there as well. So
that was one of the many things that when I stayed at Lewis's, I was stirring the pot, trying to cause trouble between you and your lovely fiance.
You almost cost me my marriage, Ed.
I'm not married yet, so there's still time.
You almost cost me my happy future.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. You don't deserve one, so gotta read. She does though. That's the problem. So I can't try too hard.
She deserves better. Let's be honest.
I see. I wasn't going to say that because that's.
I thought I'd get it in there first.
Well, when it's true, it's rude to say.
It's harder.
Yeah, exactly. Catching up on the chat. Ors points out that open ground is a type of terrain. Hell yeah. I'm never going to give ground again. I'm always just going to be stuck in combats.
Giving ground is for the weak.
Yeah, and I'm technically in terrain because open ground is terrain. That's fantastic.
So if you're fighting in, say, both of your units are in a wood.
Yeah.
Neither of them give ground.
Yeah, because you're in terrain. You can still make them fall back in good order or flee, but if you give ground, you don't go anywhere.
Skeletons don't tend to flee, unfortunately.
Yeah. Fennec says cheers from Bavaria again. Was that after the alcohol discussion? I don't know much about Bavaria, but I feel like good beer is like one of the things I associate with it, off the top of my head. Also, someone's pointed out, Callum says it's the Gasleak episode. I feel like there's always got to be one, right? This is it. That's an LGT mindset, everything terrain. Oh god. Can you imagine if the Green Knight could just come out of anywhere? I've screened my army. How?
The board edge is terrain and it's natural.
I hate that. Yeah, anything else that you want to bring up in terms here? Because we've talked for a good amount of time. Some of what we said had value. Not very much.
I'm going to an event. I just realised. I've booked just a one-day one.
Didn't invite
down
me.
in the fine city of Canterbury, at the Gothic Games venue. Danny, lovely TO.
Mm-hmm.
He won. What's the nice person award that Games Workshop do each year? Warhammer Hero.
Oh yeah.
He won the Warhammer Hero for
I
think England, UK, whatever. And I've been meaning to go to one of his events for a very, very long time. And so I'm going in a couple of weeks for a one-day event, taking the vampire counts, I think. So yeah, we shall very much enjoy that. It's going to be good.
Excellent stuff. Love to hear it. I thought I was in an event this weekend. Turns out I'm not.
I didn't buy a ticket.
Well, so that's the thing. I bought a ticket for one of the TSN events back in December, and it was for a February event. And because I was going to your event in February, and I try to limit my 2-day events to one a month, because I want to spend quality time with my partner, so I try not to be away too much. 1-day events are fine, so I've got one of those next weekend, or sort of. I'll talk about that in a second. But where was I going with this? Yeah, I thought I said, can you move my event to this one? Funny thing is, I'd asked to move to the wrong event, so I didn't actually want to do this one because it was quite close to your event. It was only 2 weeks after it, and it's quite close to when Hiles were being released. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have time. And I hadn't had a response back from the TSN events team. And I was like, that's pretty weird, because Tom, who does all of their back-end stuff for everything, is like really on the ball and he responds really quickly. And turns out I had a response. I just hadn't read it for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And he'd said, sorry, that event sold out. Can I, move it to a different event? I was like, this has accidentally worked out perfectly. So I'm instead going to the TSN Arena event in the start of April, which is
excellent.
Better. But it does mean that I feel a bit like I'm not doing an event for a long time. I think there's 6 weeks between events. So I am playing next weekend, not the weekend coming, the weekend after, for a Team England training day, which will be good.
That will be good fun.
So that's going to be a long day in terms of travel there and back, and also playing some games, but I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling like I want to try and find a 1-day RTT that's travelable from Nottingham over the
I was going to say Canterbury's a bit far for that for you. Who's wrong end of the country? Not too bad from Essex. Only an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull up Old World Rankings, because if you go to their website,
plug for Old World Rankings there.
Well, it's such a good website, and I'm really pleased that we have something like it. Not a sponsor of the channel, just someone that I like. Gomo's a great chap, and he's put together a great website.
if you compare old world rankings to the ranking system that 40k has, which is
Dog
10,
shit.
20, 30 times the size of old world,
Yeah.
it's like they need to open their eyes, get old world rankings and turn it into 40k rankings, do the same thing.
Yeah, the ITC rankings are so clunky and just crap. Whereas Old World Rankings is a really nice website that's smooth and has all of the things that you could want to see. And if you go to the UK rankings right now, you'll see me at the top saying that... not the top of the rankings, but just saying that like mine's the most recent win, apparently, on the list. Yeah. I don't know if that's right, or if it's just because I'm logged in as me, but I'm up there at the top. So as far as I'm concerned, great website.
Hashtag winning.
Hashtag winning. Yeah, I need to win some more.
Yeah,
the rankings.
The Saffron Boys discovered Old World Rankings this week, so
yeah.
we've been linking everybody's accounts up, and
nice.
They've been looking at their scores from the weekend. I'd quite like them to stick this feedback to Gomo, but try and get teams on there like they do have in the ITC stuff, actually. So like Saffron Slammers, as a team, we can put points together, or 6++, depending on who it is. We can all just actually contribute to team scores as well. That's always good fun, so we can get an end of year best team in the world or best team in the country.
Yeah, good stuff. I'll if I remember, I'll shoot him a message, because I think that's good feedback, and he is always looking for feedback because he is one of those people who adapt things as needed, which is always good stuff. Yeah, I think I was at the end of my interesting topics for discussion this evening. You got anything else you want to say?
Buy a ticket for the Saffron Slam on 10th of May.
Hell yeah, I'll put a link in the description after the stream is over. If you want to, if you're an audio listener, or if you're listening live right now and there isn't one in the description, go to www.elmominiatures.com, or is it .co.uk?
.com.
elmominiatures.com.
We're international, baby. We're not, but...
And you'll be able to find the event packs, all of the good stuff on there, and tickets for events upcoming. Before we close up, I think chat's been so active. We need to pick up. They've put some more fun stuff in. What do we got here? So Ben Walker, another debatable, interesting rule interaction. Can random movers like gigantic spawns reform? The special rule for random moves says they can't do any other maneuver than wheel. Oh god, why would you do this to me? This is. They can lumbering pivot, which you can do more often than you think. Let's have a look here. So they cannot march or declare a charge. They can wheel, but they can't perform any other maneuvers. Ooh.
Reform a maneuver? It is, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe they just have to lumber.
To be fair, reform represents the most complex of maneuvers a unit can perform on the battlefield. Yeah. But on the tabletop, it's quite straightforward. Unless you're a random mover, in which case we haven't clarified these rules.
Yeah. Overrunning counts as charging, I believe, so I don't think you can lumber at the end of a move, an overrun move. Savers, I think this is the second time you post it, but I have caught it this time. Hear me out. Screams or vindictive glare allow a unit to use evasive to fall back in good order out of combat in the shooting phase. I think that's technically correct. Because there's nothing saying that you can't.
Do you know what? We haven't released the battle report yet, but there's a moment in the battle report whenever Ed gets around to edit it, where he overruns into my necromancer on his own, and I thought it was invasive, but it's not. There's a rule that I don't know that I've ever seen anybody use called evade, which is not invasive; it's evade.
I've used it.
Have you?
Yeah.
There we go. Conveniently forgot to tell me I could do it against your dragon.
You should know your own rules. Also, I did forget it existed, yeah.
To be fair, for a necromancer as well, you have to make an initiative test, which I think is 2.
Yes.
So chances are you're going to fail it. But yeah, if you pass your initiative test, your character can just move a number of inches when it gets overrun into.
Is it equal to its initiative it gets to move, or is it just a normal movement?
Up to their movement characteristic.
Up to the movement characteristic, yeah.
I want a lone character. Lone characters can't be mortis engines, can they?
Yeah.
Infantry or cavalry, yeah.
Yeah, it's infantry, yeah. Winslow says random movers specifically say they don't use random move for pursuit, overrun, etc. Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. It's one of those things where, honestly, most of the rules can be tied up, but it's just you've got to go through the full legalese document to find it. I'm feeling like no, never mind. I'm going to leave that a secret. We'll get to that. You'll see in April.
Ooh,
perfect. Cool. I think that is the end. Any closing thoughts? Oh, no, Jack's got one. I got a rule I think everyone is playing wrong. In a challenge for a 1 wound model, each attack versus this model can only do 1 wound. So if you've got Ogre Blade, each attack only does max 1 for the purpose of overkill. That comes down to whether characters, unit champions count as characters, right, for the purpose of overkill. I think they do, because I think the game doesn't work if they don't.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah, it's not one that I know enough about to argue the point on, though.
I tend to find if a character's wielding an ogre blade, they do enough to max the overkill anyway. So
the dragon they're riding on rolls into town as well.
Once D6 stomps and the 5 dragon attacks come in, it doesn't really matter.
6 dragon attacks. Most of us play good dragons.
You got better dragon than me, so
yeah.
Perfect. I've taken him out. We don't have the zombie dragon in anymore. He's gone from the list.
This has been episode 23, the Gasleak episode. I'm gonna go before we get sidetracked again. Oh no! Thanks for the donation.
More glue money for Ed to huff next stream.
God damn it! I don't huff glue. I will not have my good name slandered. But thank you for the donation.
You're going to need to put more in to buy me more spray cans.
Yeah, something like that.
They're like £1 million now. So.
Oh, that was another Discord meme, wasn't it? Come join Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, you're missing out. It's where all the great banter happens. Good times had.